Welcome back to the kitchen. My name is Brandon, aka Twitch for Life. This is my partner Arthur Yves and my man Kurt, aka Fooly Q.
If it looks like we're wearing the clothes we were last week, it's because we are. I was out of town last week, and so we decided to record 2 videos at once.
Today we'll be discussing violence in video games. But first, the cut of the week.
Gucci gang, Louis gang, Fendi gang, Dolce gang, Sachi gang, Prada gang, lot of gangs. I don't really fuck with no brand names. Joyner about to go on a rampage. Ooh, they don't wanna see me let the chopper bang. Yeah, get this bitch jumping like Shabba Rank. Ooh, what's a little pump to a rocket flame? Yeah, turn your pink dreads into pocket chain.
That is way too much fire here spitting on the track right now. Bruh. Bruh. Wait, everybody all at once. 1, 2, 3, give him a hearty bruh. 1, 2, 3, bruh. Whew. That was dope. That was dope.
When I first heard that track, I was shooketh.
Preach.
It's like that.
As this is the track that you found, what do you think about it?
Man. Finally, okay, so I've always liked the beat. The beat, I mean, although it's simplistic, it gets you moving. You know, you want to dance to it. With that being said, having that much flame on that beat just brought that whole track way past any point that I could have ever seen it going.
I'm sorry, I'm taking a moment of silence for the people who died after he spit that type of fire on the track. Man!
Woosah.
So Joyner Lucas,
Nah.
man. Like I've seen a couple tracks that he's done, and I mean they were alright, but this one is a step above.
Bro.
Like I've noticed because I've actually like been following for the last couple of years. He has 2 or 3 different styles of music. So he has your uplifting one. Like I know a lot of people have seen this one, the I Am Not a Racist one. That's technically an uplifting type of song. He's got the Storytellers, which I think is one of them's called like Keep It 100, where if you watch the video, it's literally a story from start to end. It's ridiculous. And then he's got these songs like this, where he's just going in on people.
Somebody else's track and somebody else's style.
And just eating it alive. It really is.
So we have a term for this because I play lots of video games, as some of you know.
Yo, he got pwned.
Well, that's not necessarily the term I was going to use, but that beat, he ate them grits. Gosh, what is that? Like, what just happened to us? What just happened to my eardrums, my ear holes?
Do you feel violated?
A little bit.
Pause.
No, that is not what we do on this track. We play this track.
Oh yeah.
All right, so check it out. So the beat's all right. I mean, I was never like a big fan. I mean, it's simple and it's
Yeah, it gets you going.
It's one of those newer age tracks which are made.
It's a club single. Yeah.
Made for the club,
Yeah.
right? Like back when who did it originally? Lil Pump.
Yeah.
He did originally. It was shit mumble rap.
I don't
But-
think we have enough time for that.
you know how I feel about that. He gets on it. All right, so he gets on this track and he's putting it out there the same way that Lil Pump did. His flow is matched Lil Pump until he cuts the track, until he cuts the beat, and then he goes on a rampage.
Look, he hits us with the this. No, like this is the joint right here. Like this, like I don't know how else to talk about this than this is the joint. Right?
That was probably more jaw dropping than when Drake dropped back to back.
Like okay. Let's. I can't break down all the lyrics and the words and stuff like that because I don't know all of what he said. But there was some moments in this track where he said some things that made you question your ability to listen right. So, all right. So we're gonna break this down a whole nother way, right? So the beat is simple. The beat is cool, right? Everybody knows the beat. Everybody rocks to the beat. We get down to the beat. But then this cat starts spitting on this beat. And he showed us flows that we didn't know existed on the beat. Okay, and I have to talk about this too. So I know you guys see my eyes like dropping down to the screen, and it's because I'm looking at this little character that's on this little video he's got, right? And I'm analyzing this little character, and you know you'll see it right here. But what's he's got is that band-aids on the glasses, and then he's got the band right here that says Joyner season, right? But then the little dude, like his little hand moves and his little head starts to bob, and then flames just come out of nowhere, and it's the perfect animation for this track because it's mad simple, and the dude's like, I'm just chilling, but I'm spitting this fire at you, and it's just completely perfect. Man, I don't even need to get technical on the track. You heard it, it's dope. I mean, what you wanna talk about? Like, it is what it is.
I was gonna say, from the aspect of it being a bootleg, gosh, quality and everything. God.
So what stuck out to me though is what he's saying kind of reflects how I feel about the modern hip hop scene, where they talk about brands and drugs, and he cuts that down in the first two phrases. He straight brought the mainstream modern hip hop scene down in his first few phrases, and then took it further.
There was a line in there that was a crazy little punchline. So he said, "The man on the horse, all I had was Ralph Lauren, so I went and signed a deal and bought a pony." Sir, he's not just saying stuff on the track. He's not just rapping onomatopoeias here, people.
Bruh.
This ain't scat.
Wait, you mean there are still people that rap and have actual meanings behind their words?
Oh, bro. So no, that's the thing. He does it in the style of this mumble rap, but he's got something to say.
In the words of my man, Will Smith, from now on, when we tell y'all to rap, this how y'all rap. This how you rap from now on. This is how you rap. So, like we always do about this time, this is the moment where we vote on the track. Trash or trophy? Art.
Hard trophy.
Kurt.
Bro, I feel like, you know what? Yeah, it's trophy all the way.
Man,
trophy.
look, I have to agree with the two of y'all on that. That track was a trophy. His flow was a trophy. You know, of course, the beat is dope, but I'm gonna have to say Lil Pump is trash. Joyner Lucas is a trophy. So it looks like my man Joyner Lucas is living up to the last name, just like my man George. Keep it real, homie.
George Lucas. On that note, video games.
Man, since we were just talking about some nonsense and violence on the track, let's talk about this violence in these video games. So,
alright, so we were watching this Philip DeFranco video, and he went on about this new game coming out, Become Human, and it seems like we're back on this violence in video games destroying the youth of America, you know, anti-video game sentiment. Where is this coming from?
Look, okay, I'm super passionate about this, and here's why. So, just like as I was growing up, video games were the catalyst for a lot of different conventions of learning for me, right? Final Fantasy showed me that they were you know, mythologies in the world. You know, I had other games like Metal Gear Solid showed me what mystery was all about and twist and turn the storyline for me to appreciate stories and plots. I never once picked up on the fact that, oh man, he's shooting a gun, I'm about to go kill somebody. Absolutely not, but I did learn how to tell a story. And I'll tell you this. We've got to get away from blaming the media and blaming game developers or developers in general or producers for that matter for the lack of ability to parent, you know, because I always had a parent in my house that was telling me, hey, look, you know, in this house, here's what we do, but we won't do this, right? But it's called culture, people, right? So what you do when you create culture is about environments, it's about norms of behavior, and it's about beliefs, right? If you're not creating that in your household, of course you're going to have these problems. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? So let's try to, stop blaming, people who made this game, which is called Detroit Become Human, right? Because and to explain what's happening.
And the first thing we're going to talk about today, it is one of the media's favorite things to talk about, and that is violence in video games ruining the world. It's horrible, it's repulsive, it's ruining the children. Well, the most recent game in their crosshairs is Detroit Become Human. It's the newest game from Quantic Dream, who've made Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls. If you haven't played their games in the past, it's essentially like an interactive choose-your-own-adventure movie. Where the story goes and where it eventually ends, it depends on your actions. And I'm just mentioning that because it's important moving forward. So right at the center of all of this outrage, we have a Daily Mail article with the headline, it's a long one, "Abusers will get off on this stuff. Sony under fire for repulsive video game Detroit Become Human, which shows girl 10 beaten to death by her father among a host of child abuse and domestic violence acts players watch." And in the article, they feature a trailer from the game. It shows you the situation where your character's an android, you're working for a man who seems like an abusive father, and in the trailer, to show your actions have consequences, it first shows a version where the father goes upstairs after the daughter. You could move, but in this version you don't, and the father then kills his daughter. The trailer then goes back to that moment where you could do something and then you save the little girl. Shows a version where you shoot and kill the abusive father. And after the trailer's release, there were organizations that were outraged. Dame Ranson, founder of Childline, calling the game sick and repulsive, urging Sony to either remove the scene or remove the game. Dame saying violence against children is not entertainment. It's not a game. It's a real nightmare for thousands of children who have to live through these kinds of scenarios. The makers of this game should be thoroughly ashamed. I think it's perverse. Who thinks beating a child is entertainment? Andy Burroughs of the NSPCC adding, any video game that trivializes or normalizes child abuse, neglect, or domestic violence for entertainment is unacceptable. Peter Saunders, the founder of the National Association of People Abused in Childhood, saying, abusers will get off on this stuff, and the other thing we know beyond question is that video games end up being played by children. And scarily, the proliferation of salacious and abusive images is actually encouraging violence and abuse. Tory MP Damian Collins, chairman of the Culture, Media, and Sports Select Committee, saying it is completely wrong for domestic violence to be part of a video game regardless of what the motivation is. Domestic violence is not a game, and this simply trivializes it. I worry that people who play this, who themselves have suffered abuse, will use this game to shape the way in which they deal with abusers. It's dangerous to plant the seed in people's mind that the way to deal with abusers is to use violence against them. It's counterproductive and could put them in even more danger.
So this is all about consequences and benefits. It's about learning cause and effect, right? So the point isn't to allow something bad to happen, it's to avoid situations where bad things can happen, right? And we learn that all, as being kids, right? If the oven is on and there's something in the oven, we're going to get it. You put mitts on to avoid burning. Simple, right? So we learn these things. So why are you allowing video games to be your babysitter? You know what I mean? That's in essence the problem here. You know what I mean?
Lazy parenting.
Lazy parenting, absolutely, all day long.
All right, so I feel like we see this type of conversation pop up most often with video games, and it's usually the people who are bringing this up are I'll be honest, the older generations, the people who don't really understand video games, who didn't grow up with the video games. Yeah. And it sounds like it's just a hit piece on video games. That's what it's always been. It's a antsy video game thing. I mean, to the point of this game, there's been worse things in movies, but you don't hear about a child dying in a movie. You don't hear massive uproar. Oh my God, a child dying in a movie. That's.
There's no uproar when you watch all 8 seasons of Criminal Minds and all of the crazy stuff that's happening in there. No, you don't let your kid watch it. Just like this video game. If it's not the video game that's going to promote the culture that you're trying to build inside your home, don't let your kid buy it. Don't let your kid play it. It's not for them. Right? It's for other people who want to immerse themselves in a storyline that allows them to have choices and to avoid bad situations, right? That's what it's about. You know what I mean? Don't focus on the negative aspects of what's happening, because if that was the case, we need to be up here raving about Scandal, raving about how to what's the name of it? How to do a murder.
As a rebuttal to that statement, I will say this: being the way that we grew up versus the way that the the generation is growing up now, the access to that type of stuff is a lot more available. Personally, I don't feel like it's bad parenting. I mean, yes, to some degree it is bad parenting, but in the same sense, any public school kid, any public school kid, any kid in general has the availability for this type of media just from the peers that they're around alone.
So I'm glad you said that, right? Because that ties back into environment, right? And when I was talking about creating culture, right? When you create an environment, you tailor every part of interaction that happens with your children. My parents did that for me. They were extremely selective about the schools that I went to at certain ages, so that I would be in environments where things like this wouldn't come into play, right? And in so many other parents of people that are my age were the same way and selective about those environments. So we can't use the but the other kids at school excuse. Okay, tailor that environment too, not just the one in the home. Let's tailor the school one too, right?
The issue I have with that is that it gets iffy because you get into that idea of, well, all right, so we shouldn't put our children in public school. We should put them in a private school to tailor that environment. I don't think it's completely on the parents to put that much into the environment of the child. I think it's more beneficial to teach your children what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
For example, I went to public school my whole life, and I had friends who they had like Grand Theft Auto, they've had Mortal Kombat, all of these violent games, all of these kind of demented games. But my mother taught me at home that this is a video game and that this isn't real life. And she also taught me that these games like aren't a valid representation of this world, and that anything that I see in these video games do not belong in her house, and also don't belong in the current world that we live in. Yeah. So I think teaching your children is to your point, is a very valid way of controlling that environment without a less hands-on way of controlling the environment.
And that's what I mean when I say tailor the environment. I'm not talking tailor the environment in my definition isn't about cutting away everything, right? It's literally about showing the kid how to process what's really there, what's really happening. You know what I mean? Because then you go into the other part of creating culture, which is your beliefs and your norms of behavior. This is what we do here, and this is what we do every day. And this is what we won't do, right? And then creating that belief system, which is your morals and values, right? And what is considered right, what is considered wrong, and why it's considered right and why it's considered wrong in this space. And I believe up until a certain point the parents are responsible for that, and that in how the information gets processed. After a certain point, then no, right? Certainly not. Then it's you have an adult who's responsible for themselves. You know what I mean? And tailoring their own environment, which we do now. The greatest point that I can give and I can leave here is, if you don't want your child playing the game, or if you don't want it to leave a lasting impression on them, then I think the answer is pretty plain and simple, right? It's not for them, and it's not for your household. I have friends right now that still don't know what Smurfs are because they weren't allowed to watch it because there was witchcraft in it. It just, you know what I mean? Like, I know it's possible, but we've got to be more proactive instead of reactive.
Personally, from a person that's like, I'm completely pro gaming for everything. Like, I'm pro like the whole I guess the openness of being able to do whatever you want in a video game. I'm all for that. My thing is this: teach the young to have morals from young. That way, when they grow older, they can make the decisions that are the right pathway, because it's something that's it's conditioned into their learning. Like if you tell somebody like, if say if a child is born and they grow up their entire life thinking that the sky is green and the ground is blue, I mean, they're always gonna think that. Like just like what you were saying. Like if you teach a child like this is how it is inside of this little section of reality, but this is not the actual reality of what you actually live in. Like as long as you're able to distinguish a point between reality and virtual fantasy, yeah. Then by all means, any game, like it shouldn't matter what game the child is playing. As long as those core values are built in, like as long as those core morals are built in and they know right from wrong, you don't have to worry about them straying off into that kind of pathway. But the problem is, or one of the biggest issues that I've seen, and I'm watching this through my little brother right now growing up, because things are so easily flooded nowadays, like because the media is so easily flooded, because of social media and everything like that, it's easier for these kids to get their hands on things of that nature without knowing the specific meanings behind them, without knowing the storylines behind them, and then you get things like you get stuff like a lot of mumble rap tracks, where tying back into what Joyner Lucas actually said in the song, a bunch of drug dealers in the House of Pain. I mean, they're glorifying drug usage, like they're glorifying these types of things. So in that aspect, we're not our generation is no longer teaching our kids to glorify being this. They're teaching them to be this. Like they're teaching them, they're telling them, hey, instead of spreading your wings and going and do what you need to do to get what you need to get done, nah, just take the easy way out. Just take the easy way out. Go take it from him because he's got it. This is literally what they are teaching our children these days. This is what they're teaching our youth. And the fact that we sit back, like I'm not saying that everybody sits by idly and lets that go by, but the fact that the youth nowadays, because everything's become commercialized, everything's become.
My thing is, the games obviously they have ratings, right?
Yeah.
Right, and you should definitely look at the ratings and look what's in the game. You can see that before you open the box, before you watch a trailer. Mm-hmm. You know what's there. As you're sitting there talking, and I'm thinking, I'm like, at what point does it stop, right? Because one of the greatest pipelines to access on the internet, to access whether it be things that are good or bad or evil or whatever, right? I mean, it's Google. You know what I mean? Like, we Google everything, mm-hmm. right? You can go Google right now and find out anything you want to find out.
Yeah.
You can find out how to build a wind turbine, how to make your own bullets, how to do what some of us do. In the entertainment world, right there from Google. Are we mad at the information availability, or are we mad at the fact that stuff is there, or are we looking for a soapbox to stand on in order to get our words out?
I think we're looking for a scapegoat to blame things on.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
But I don't think the issue is that black and white. I think it's very much a combination between the availability of information, mm-hmm. the environment children are raised in, and environmental cues that children are made privy to. I don't think there's one answer to any of this.
Definitely not.
What I absolutely know is that telling a game developer not to develop a game of a certain genre or with a certain type of story or meaning or scene in it doesn't help anything. It doesn't mend the situation. I think children are just as privy to these videos of people shooting one another on the internet as they are to these video games. I actually think there's a bigger barrier to entry on these video games than there is to some of the more demented videos that are on the internet. So
I mean, you can even look back on that. Like there's a lot of games that, even in an aspect as brutal and as violent as they are, like one of them, Fallout. I believe in Fallout 3 there's a town where it's just nothing but children, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And you can't touch those children. You can't harm them. You can't do anything to them. Like, you can try. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm pretty sure most people that have played the game have tried. that little bit, like a little bit of morality within the game itself, just let you know, like, okay, yeah, we're all humans in the same aspect. We all think the same way. We don't want anything bad to happen to these kids, you know.
I mean, lots of video game developers have made it impossible to hurt children.
Yeah,
that is, a step. I don't want to say it's a step in the right direction. It's a step in a direction
Right.
that kind of should help to appease these people who are against video games, but.
And I mean, just to make it completely clear, and I don't think we have to, but any type of violence against children in any way, shape, or form is wrong.
Nah, I will say this: some of them kids, you don't need to spare the rod on them.
I mean, so there's always a space to bust Kurt upside the head.
I am the way your son don't need a gun to get respect up on the street.
These are just our opinions. An opinion isn't a fact. It doesn't affect reality, it reflects reality. So it's right if you agree with some of it, or don't agree at all.
So fam, thank you for chopping it up this week with us in the kitchen. If you like the conversation, go and hit that like button. If you want to hear more, hit that subscribe button, and make sure to follow us on our social medias. And as always, remember, this is a conversation. It's not an argument, it's not a debate. We're just here to discuss some topics. And as always, remember, we're just here to do better together.